Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're going to unpack a really interesting conversation with Bill Gates.
That's right. We're pulling out some key insights, really focusing on his thoughts around legacy, learning, and, well, the future.
Exactly. Think of this as, your guide to what's really on his mind these days. And maybe more importantly, how some of that thinking might actually connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
What jumped out at me right away, actually, was something kind of surprising. He mentioned this fear, a fear of losing the ability to learn.
Which is pretty remarkable considering who we're talking about, right?
All his achievements.
Totally. It really makes you pause and think about your own relationship with learning and growth. It seems pretty clear that for Gates, learning isn't just important, it's almost fundamental, like breathing.
Indeed. And what strikes me is how his priorities seem to have evolved over time. The conversation really highlights this shift. He's moved from, you could say, wealth accumulation more towards maximizing impacts.
Impact, you mean like making a difference? Yes. But specifically thinking about leverage. How to use resources money, sure. But also ideas, time to get the biggest positive effect. That concept, leverage, seems to underpin a lot of his current thinking.
That's fascinating. And where does he see the best opportunities for that kind of leverage now? Because he seemed incredibly positive about India.
Oh, absolutely. He called it the talent capital of the world.
Right. And not just for tech, like you might expect. He was talking broader problem-solving innovation across the board.
hmm He even said, and this is quite a statement, if I were 20 again, I'd build with AI in India.
Wow. That's a really strong endorsement.
Yeah.
What do you think is behind that level of, well, optimism?
Well, you look at India right now, you've got this huge young population, the demographic dividend, as they call it,
Okay.
plus rapidly growing tech infrastructure and just a really vibrant sort of innovation culture. It all comes together to create this fertile ground, especially for something dynamic like AI.
So it's the combination of people and potential.
Exactly. He likely sees it as a place where smart investments and the right initiative can genuinely have a global ripple effect.
Yeah.
For you listening, it sort of underlines how interconnected everything is now. Innovation can spark anywhere.
Yeah, that's a great point. But, it's not always smooth sailing, is it? And I found it quite refreshing how openly he talked about mistakes, about things that didn't go to plan.
He did. He brought up some significant ones, the whole mobile market struggle, for instance.
Right. Microsoft missing the boat there.
And judging the timing for vaccine development, the complexities there,
Yeah.
and also the hurdles in his philanthropic work. That seemed quite eye-opening.
It did. He mentioned things like governments not always being on the same page, or maybe richer countries not fully getting the urgency in poorer nations.
And just the sheer amount of time and persistence needed for massive goals, like, say, wiping out malaria. It's a long, long game.
So what's the key takeaway from hearing about those struggles?
I think it's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That even with vast resources and, the best intentions, big global changes are incredibly complex. You hit unexpected roadblocks.
Sure.
His examples really hammer home the need for persistence, obviously, but also adaptability. You have to be willing to change course based on what you learn.
And keep investing, keep reflecting on what worked and what didn't.
Precisely. Honest self-assessment. For you listening, it kind of normalizes setbacks, doesn't it? They're part of any big effort. The crucial thing is learning from them and, well, adjusting fire.
Yeah, adapt and overcome, as they say. And it feels like these experiences, the successes and the failures, are really shaping how he views his own legacy now.
So,
Well, he seems to be consciously shifting the focus. It's less about Microsoft and the software revolution he led.
right, which is monumental in itself.
Of course. But now his aspiration seems to be about being remembered for the philanthropy. He specifically mentioned eradicating polio as a goal.
And wanting to make giving itself a bigger part of how people think about legacy in general.
Exactly. It feels like a real evolution in his perspective.
What's quite compelling there, I think, is the sense of freedom that seems to come with it. By really zeroing in on what matters most to him now, his core values.
He can be more selective.
Yes. He gains this ability to say no to things, to opportunities that don't really align with those primary goals. That kind of focus is key to maximizing your impact, whatever your scale.
Okay, so that brings us to the practical side. For you listening, what can we actually take away from all this? The source material asked it directly. What can we learn from Bill?
And some really concrete ideas came out.
Yeah, like the idea that the richest feeling isn't just having money, it's the freedom that money can potentially buy. freedom to do work you care about, freedom from certain worries.
That definitely stood out.
Yeah.
And linked to that, the emphasis on being smart with your finances,
Yeah.
avoiding unnecessary debt, actively putting money aside for growth.
Right. And this idea of investing in yourself, your skills, your knowledge, just as seriously as you'd invest in stocks or property, that really hit home for me.
Absolutely. And if you connect that back to his fear about losing the ability to learn, the one we started with,
Ah, okay. I see the link.
then these actions become even more meaningful. The suggestions to like take that course or start that SAP, systematic investment plan.
Or even create your own skill fund, little pots of money dedicated to learning.
Exactly. They're tangible ways to embody that philosophy. You're actively building your capabilities, your financial footing, your future options. It's proactive.
And it circles back to that big thought-provoking question he sort of poses. When you look back years from now, what will you say you did with your time, with your money, with your mind?
Yeah. It's a heavy question, but a good one.
Definitely makes you think about your choices today, doesn't it?
It really prompts you to think about intentionality.
Yeah.
Are you just drifting, or are you consciously deciding how to use your most valuable assets, your time, your energy, your focus? And what kind of impact, big or small, are you aiming for?
So wrapping up this deep dive then, the main threads seem to be this commitment to continuous learning, really valuing the lessons from mistakes as much as successes.
Mm. And redefining legacy around contribution, around making a difference in a way that feels authentic to you.
It's about being strategic, leveraging what you have, and seeing learning not as a phase, but as a lifelong principle.
Perhaps a final thought for everyone listening is to reflect on what truly sparks your curiosity. What are those small, consistent steps you could take, starting maybe even today, to make sure learning stays a vital, ongoing part of your life?